Welcome to Lessons Across Species. A few weeks ago, we had to make more than 100 uncomfortable phone calls. The company that manufactures the rabies vaccine we use had issued a recall, not because the vaccine was harmful, but because in some lots, the actual vaccine component had not been added. The vials contained sterile liquid, but no antigen, no immune stimulus, no protection. More than 100 pets in our practice had received doses from those lots. So we called every owner. We explained the situation. We scheduled repeat vaccines at no charge. And because rabies vaccination is required by law, we had to pull their rabies certificates until their pets were revaccinated. Most people understood, but some were deeply frightened. Several owners told me nearly the same story. My other dog got a rabies vaccine once, and 3 weeks later, it died. To them, the connection felt obvious. And those conversations reminded me of a pattern I see across species: dogs, cats, and humans. When vaccines work well for a long time, we forget why they exist. Human brains are excellent for finding patterns. If one event happens after another, it feels natural to assume the first caused the second. A vaccine happens, then an illness appears weeks later. Even if the two are unrelated, the timeline feels meaningful. Human medicine sees this exact pattern. Parents sometimes link vaccines to illness that appears later because the sequence makes emotional sense. But across species, the deeper issue is something else. Vaccines have worked so well for so long that many people have never seen the disease they prevent. When you haven't seen the disease, the vaccine starts to look like the bigger risk. I became a veterinarian before nearly every pet was routinely vaccinated. I have seen distemper. It's devastating. Dogs can develop pneumonia, neurological disease, seizures, and severe pain. Most don't survive. I've also seen parvovirus, but the first time I encountered parvo wasn't as a veterinarian. It was when I was 12 years old. I remember it vividly. Our family dog had recently died in a tragic accident. And eventually, my parents brought home a small rat terrier I named Samantha, or Sam for short. My father was a farmer. Cows and pigs received veterinary care. Dogs did not. Vaccines were considered unnecessary and expensive. 5 days after we brought Sam home, she stopped eating. Then the vomiting started. Then the diarrhea. It was bloody and foul-smelling and relentless. Parvovirus had just begun spreading across dog populations in the late 1970s. It was incredibly contagious. The virus could live in soil for months. It could be carried on boots. Even flies could spread it. Sam had no protection. This time, my mother insisted we go to the veterinarian. Sam spent 5 days hospitalized on IV fluids and medications. I still remember visiting her in that cage, small and fragile. Luckily, she survived. Sam was lucky. Many dogs did not. Today, treating parvovirus can easily cost $10,000. The vaccine that prevents it costs less than $50. The suffering it prevents, in my mind, is priceless. Viruses just don't disappear because we stop thinking about them. They remain in the environment, waiting for an opportunity. Before widespread vaccination, parvovirus circulated constantly. Infected dogs could shed virus for weeks, contaminating soil, yards, and parks. Vaccinations reduce the viral load dramatically. This took well over 20 years to reduce the viral load in the environment. When enough individuals are protected, the disease struggles to spread. This is what we call herd immunity. Vaccines protect one animal, but they also protect every other animal sharing that environment. Without vaccination, contagious diseases regain ground quickly. Many of the phone calls I had recently came down to this one basic question. What does a vaccine actually do? A vaccine introduces a harmless version of a small piece of virus or bacteria to the immune system. That exposure teaches the immune system to recognize the pathogen. The body creates specialized immune cells called memory B and T cells that remember the invader. Later, if the real virus appears, the immune cells respond quickly and effectively and kill that virus. So when we give a vaccine, this immune response starts happening. The body has to work to make these specialized cells. Sometimes a dog or a cat may feel tired after a vaccine. You have probably felt this too if you've ever had a vaccine. That doesn't mean something went wrong. It means the immune system is doing exactly what it is supposed to do. Thinking about how you feel. Just think about this. When you start coming down with like a cold or flu, you might feel sluggish, tired, or maybe a little achy. That feeling isn't the virus itself. It's your immune system responding and getting to work. The same thing can happen after a vaccine. Your immune system is being activated and learning to recognize a specific virus or a bacteria. When you're exposed to a cold or a flu virus, your immune system goes through a similar process. The difference is that a vaccine introduces only a small purified piece of that pathogen, just enough for the immune system to learn from it without causing the full illness. Very little suffering compared to a full-blown disease. The end result is the same. Your immune system builds antibodies and memory cells so that if you encounter that infection again, your body can respond faster and protect you. Another question owner asks is why a Chihuahua and a Great Dane receive the same vaccine dose. The answer is simple. Vaccines stimulate the immune system, not the body mass. The immune response requires a specific antigen amount to trigger protection, regardless of the animal's size. Vaccine researchers figure out the smallest amount of harmless virus to put into that vial to get your pet to have an immune response to create protection. A certain amount of antigen is required to trigger that protection. Half the dose doesn't produce half the immunity. It produces none. Small dog or large dog, the immune system functions the exact same way. Vaccines are not perfect. Reactions do occur, but most reactions are mild and they're temporary, like fatigue or soreness, or maybe a day of sleeping more than usual. And please understand this. The diseases we vaccinate against are far more dangerous, like distemper and parvovirus or panleukopenia in cats or rabies. These viruses are microscopic, persistent, and extremely good at finding unprotected hosts. Vaccines interrupt that process. The irony of vaccines is this: their greatest success creates their greatest vulnerability. When diseases become rare, the memory of them fades. And when that memory fades, fear shifts towards the vaccine instead of the disease. Across dogs, cats, humans, I see this pattern again and again. We forget what the world looked like before protection existed. And once that memory disappears, the protection itself can begin to feel optional. If you'd like to read the full written version of this story, including more about Sam and the history of parvovirus, I've written it in this week's Lessons Across Species essay on Substack. All of these conversations about medicine across species are helpful to you. Consider subscribing so you don't miss the next one.